The truth is, you're not supposed to be able to make $100,000 plus a year as a 20-something-year-old. That was up until a few short years ago. Because honestly, up until 5 to 10 years ago, that was never possible. But today, with an agency, $100,000 a year is the norm. And I'm gonna prove that to you with actual numbers by the end of this event. But before that, what you have to understand is this. What we have here is not normal. We have found a way to game the system. We have found a way to cut the journey of what used to take 10, 20, 30 years to just a few short 2 to 3 year period. This is the first time in history where you are able to break free from the traditional path and be successful in your early 20s. Throughout the entire history of humankind, it took decades of work and a lifelong pursuit to achieve financial freedom. And I'll be honest, it really pains me seeing the wasted potential in all of you in front of such a monumental opportunity. We literally have millions of young, intelligent, capable men and women wasting their potential of truly breaking free and achieving financial, location, and time freedom. And the problem is, you know that. You know that you can't miss this opportunity of starting an online business. And yet, you haven't been able to really take consistent action on your side hustle or start the business that you wanted to start, even though you feel like you've been putting in the work. You just find yourself kind of looking around and wondering, where are the results? I've tried all these different things. I've looked into all these different business models. I've put in the work, but where are the results? And in today's class, I'm gonna pull the curtains behind all of these failed attempts and explain to you in a very logical way why, even though you're given a step-by-step plan like the one I've given you inside of episode 1, you can't seem to succeed. And most importantly, what you need to do to break free from this failure cycle. So on that note, let's get into it. So today I want to run you through a concept that in behavioral psychology is called the emotional cycle of change. Fully enough, this is a concept that I used to run all of my clients through during my onboarding process back in my paid traffic agency days, and still to this day is one of the top exercises that my student success coaches use when they are working one-on-one with our students. And it is crucial to your success that you understand this cycle, because inevitably you are going to go through it in your own personal journey to success. And most importantly, this concept explains why 95% of people fail with whatever new venture they try in life, and why most people are always stuck in this cycle of failure, even after trying 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 different business models. This is basically the 5-stage process to achieving success in whatever you do in life. So here's how the emotional cycle of change works. It is an inner journey composed of 5 stages. Stage 1 is uninformed optimism. Stage 2 is informed pessimism. Stage 3 is the valley of despair. Stage 4 is informed optimism. And stage 5 is success and fulfillment. And what I'm going to do in this module is I'm going to run you through the 5 stages and break down what each one of them looks like. And then I'm going to give you a 9-step action plan on how to navigate this cycle and successfully come out on the other side. Now, my goal here with this class is one thing and one thing only, which is getting you to understand on a fundamental level and acknowledge the fact that when you hit a point in time where you are struggling with your agency, funnily enough, that is actually a part of the journey that's necessary for you to actually achieve success. You know, the thing is, a lot of the time students don't actually see it that way. And understanding this is actually the very first step to actually sticking to the process of something that can make you successful for life. So that when you do go through these times of struggle and doubt, you know this is just the next step in this journey. Now, once we get to stage 3, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about here. So on that note, let's get into it. Stage 1 is uninformed optimism. This is your starting point whenever you decide to do something new in life. Whether that's starting a new business or starting to hit the gym, training a new martial arts, whatever it is, you start here. Is that here everything feels amazing. and you're super pumped to get started, whether that's getting into shape or starting your agency, getting to $10,000 a month and achieving financial, location, and time freedom. The point is, you are hyped about this idea. And that is why you started this new venture or this new endeavor in the first place. So it's a stage of peak optimism and positive emotional fulfillment. And the reason why it's called uninformed optimism is because you're at that peak stage of optimism, but you don't really know the ins and outs of what you are getting yourself into and what achieving success in it really involves. And that's probably the stage you're at right now. Now, stage 2 is informed pessimism. And this is where reality starts to kick in. You start taking action on this new venture and studying about it more in depth. And that's when you realize that this is maybe a little harder than you thought it would be initially. And you start to see that there's a lot more details and problems involved in being successful with this than maybe you weren't aware of when you first started. And that is why this stage is called informed pessimism, because here you become aware of everything that you don't know. And that is when most people start to get overwhelmed with the amount of things they don't know and need to learn in order to be successful, therefore increasing the pessimism level. And this is where a lot of people also start questioning, whether that's questioning their capabilities of achieving success with the opportunity at hand, or maybe even questioning the opportunity itself, if it's actually what they thought it was when they first came across it. Or maybe even questioning the people who introduced them to such endeavor in the first place. Sometimes even questioning others' success, thinking that, they must be hiding something, or there must be something that they're leaving out when they are talking about their success. Now, stage 3 is the valley of despair. And this is when we get to the stage of peak level of pessimism. That's really when you reach your rock bottom of your inner emotional journey, because here you are past the state of doubt. You are at a state where you feel stupid for even trying this in the first place. Your mind starts telling you, why are you even trying to be successful? Look at everyone around you. Look at your family. Look at your friends. They all work mediocre jobs and live mediocre lives, and not one of them has been able to escape this reality. So why do you think you are going to be the one that does? Why do you think that you're the special one? It is the stage of intrusive thoughts. And this is a very dangerous place, because this is the place where you are most susceptible to accept those intrusive thoughts and let them control your future actions. You start trying to find things and people to blame as to why you're not successful, and creating scenarios in your head to convince yourself that you won't ever succeed with this. And at this point, you have tried different things and they haven't worked as expected. You're unsure of what to do and you're on the verge of giving up. And here is where you are going to fail if you don't have the right mindset, because your mind will test you. You're going to have intrusive thoughts telling you to give up. And this is the experience that 95% of people have. They're stuck in what I call the cycle of failure. They hear about a big new opportunity, they convince themselves that this is the one for them and it's better than anything else they have ever tried before. They are hyped, they can already see themselves succeeding with it, and they are at stage 1, which is uninformed optimism. Then they start taking action, they try a thing or two, and they see that things are not as easy as they first anticipated. Things don't work out as expected, and they start getting frustrated. And that is stage 2, informed pessimism. Then they start resenting themselves and the fact that they even tried in the first place. Everything they tried was a failure, and they don't know what to do next to avoid failure. They then try to convince themselves that this is not for them and that this opportunity was not the right one. And finally, they give up. And that is stage 3, the valley of despair. And then something interesting happens here. They will then start looking for the next big opportunity. And eventually, they find it. And you know what happens next? They go through this exact same process all over again just to get to the valley of despair and give up once more. So they get stuck in this endless cycle of finding a new opportunity and getting super hyped about it, figuring out it's harder than they expected, getting frustrated with it, and then giving up and looking for the next thing. And this is the cycle of failure. It's a cycle of endlessly going from stage 1 to stage 3 of the emotional cycle of change, thinking that for some reason, this time will be different. And 95% will be stuck in this cycle for the rest of their lives. And that is why you and 95% of people cannot succeed in life, no matter how good or how solid the opportunity is at hand. Because no matter what, you will face hardships, and you will have to walk through the valley of despair. And it is a difficult walk, I can tell you that. A walk that, quite frankly, most people cannot endure. And the only way to succeed with anything in life is to break that cycle, to fight the intrusive thoughts. Understand that going through the valley of despair is not a symptom of your failed attempts, but rather a required step towards success. And the reason why most people fail here is because they don't realize that they are at this stage, or they're not even aware of this concept that I'm presenting to you right now. From my experience, students usually get here within 8 to 12 weeks of starting the program. So just the fact of you having the understanding that the valley of despair is a required part of the journey to success, and the awareness that you're currently going through it, and acknowledging the fact that you might have preconditioning problems, limiting beliefs, and that it is very normal for you to be at this stage, just consciously acknowledging these problems, it gives you enough incentive for you to go ahead and start fixing them. And with that mindset, endure through the pain and come out victorious on the other side of the valley of despair. Now, obviously, that is easier said than done. And that is why we have an entire mindset phase inside of Agency Accelerator, because 95% fail at this stage because they lack the mindset required to power through the struggles that you are inevitably going to face in this journey. But do not worry, because this mindset training inside of Agency Accelerator will empower you with the resilience and the bulletproof mentality that you need to succeed in life. And in a few minutes, I'm going to give you the exact step-by-step action plan to get through the valley of despair and come out of it successfully. Now, before I get into that, let me walk you through the last two stages of the emotional cycle of change. Stage 4 is informed optimism. Now, for the few that manage to get out of the valley of despair undefeated, they get into stage 4, which is informed optimism. This is the place you think you will never reach. But once you go through the valley of despair and you start getting your first small wins and seeing a glimpse of success, you start to become an optimist again. Now, the difference is, this time, your optimism doesn't come from a false sense of confidence or unrealistic expectations that were fed into you, but rather from your own experience, the knowledge of this industry that you've developed along the way, as well as the small wins that you've started to collect throughout your journey. Your expectations are now aligned, and you've accepted that you're not going to get rich overnight, that it is going to take some time. But most importantly, you know exactly what you need to do in order to achieve the success you want to achieve. And you know exactly what action steps you need to take in order to do so. And you will understand that even though you might not be the best at it yet, and that it might be a difficult journey to develop the skills needed, you have what it takes to get there. And you know that at the end, it will all be worth it. And that is when you start to get a good inner emotional state that then reflects into your business. And that brings us on to stage 5, because finally you will start to get success and fulfillment. And you will know exactly when you reach this stage, because you're going to start signing clients. You would have found proof of concept, and you're going to be able to scale. And the things you do simply work. In short, you will get to a point where you are running a successful agency. The 9 actionable mindsets. Now, I want to give you some actionable advice on how to progress through these stages and what mindsets to adopt when you go through them. So here's a list of 9 actionable mindsets to adopt throughout the cycle of emotional change. Mindset number 1 is quite simply, you cannot skip stages. You must go through all of the stages. There is no such thing as succeeding in this game without going through the valley of despair, going through informed pessimism, etc. You always have to remember, you are suffering because that is part of the way to success. And simply, it's a stage that cannot be skipped. Things not working, getting frustrated with your results, feeling like your efforts are not paying off, it is all part of the journey. So just remember that whenever you do go through that stage, because it will happen. And it's also worth mentioning that you might stay in the valley of despair for 2 hours, for 2 days, or for 2 months. It is really dependent on who you are and how strong your mindset is. Hence why we have this entire mindset training here inside of Agency Accelerator to ensure that you do not fall off track when walking through the valley of despair, while also trying to make this as short a walk as possible. And most importantly, being aware of the fact that you are experiencing the symptoms of that stage is actually the first step to ensuring that you'll get out of it and progress to stage 4. Now, the second mindset is confront your true self. I want you to ask yourself the following questions and really reflect on them, especially when you're struggling with thoughts of giving up and doubting yourself. The first one, is this my actual belief, or is that a situation that is being imposed on me? Second question to ask yourself, is that a limiting belief that's holding me back? The third is pay attention to your thoughts and ask yourself, what's leading you to get to those thoughts in the first place? Is it social media, comparison to other students or other people posting about their financial success? Maybe it's just self-imposed unrealistic expectations. I highly recommend that when you're going through a stage, you sit down every single day and journal about these thoughts so that you can reflect on them and really get to understand their root source, what's causing them in the first place, how you react to them, and how your reaction affects your performance, your results, your mood, and the way you feel. Just remember, we don't get to choose the things we experience or even the thoughts we have inside of our head. They're spontaneous, they just happen, but what we do get to control is our reaction towards them. And journaling and really taking the time to break down these experiences and why you react to them the way that you do will help you control your reactions to negative experiences. And then eventually, you get to a point where they don't even bother you anymore, because you choose to not let them do so. I'd say that personally, that's my number one strength and probably one of the biggest contributors to the amount of success I've achieved at such a young age. I mean, most people think that I've achieved success at this age because I'm way smarter than most people or because I had some sort of skill that you do not possess. And that's actually not true at all. I started from a very similar place as you. If anything, I was probably less capable than you currently are when I first started, and due to the fact that I was so young and naive at the time. So it was definitely not that brought me here. The fact is, my number one skill that I'm better at than 99% of people is how good I am at regulating my own emotions, and especially my reactions to stressful situations and negative experiences. I purposefully control how these affect me and the way I think and act upon them. You see, most people get desperate when something bad happens to them, but I have learned to control myself to be able to find peace in the middle of a thunderstorm. I've lost ungodly amounts of money in a single day due to failed projects. I've gotten hundreds of thousands of people attacking me, recording videos, shitting on my actions, my companies, my programs, my personal life, all the negative experiences that would be the worst nightmare of some people. And the very same day that I experienced those, you know what I did? I did the same thing I do every single day. I woke up, I had my morning coffee, well now my morning big day. I worked, I had my team calls, I trained in my home gym, I laughed at the silly jokes from my team or my friends, and even though you could look and say that the world around me was burning that day if people looked in, but for me, nothing changed. I just kept doing what I always do, unbothered, because I get to control how I react to the things that happen to me. And with this type of control over yourself, your feelings and your thoughts, you are able to think clearly in stressful situations, assess your options wisely, in situations where most people would let their emotions take over and they would take emotional decisions instead, which is the number one way of taking decisions that put you further away from success, or potentially even destroy things that took years to build. Because the consequences of anger, frustration, sadness, and what other negative emotions you feel due to negative experiences, most often than not, are much more harmful to you than the actual circumstances that aroused these emotions in the first place. Again, you don't get to choose the situations you experience, but you definitely get to choose how you react to them. And as the old Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't. And all of this control over my emotions and reactions to negative experiences derives from me deeply analyzing and contemplating my own thoughts, trying to understand where they came from and how they make me feel, all of which you become incredibly aware of when you journal about your day, your emotions, your experiences. So I highly recommend you adopt this habit, especially if you are going through any hardships currently. Now, the third mindset is look after yourself. And here's what I mean by that. Look after yourself. Exercise, sleep, eat healthy, get some rest. And this is especially important here because whenever we talk to students that are going through the valley of despair, usually it feels like their entire life is falling apart. Not only the business, but also their personal lives. They're failing their exams in university. They've been slacking off on their outreach efforts. They've stopped going to the gym. Their relationship is going downhill. Their diet looks like shit. All of that is happening at the same time. And the fact is, your personal life bleeds into your business life. And at the end of the day, majority of the times you're not actually experiencing a business problem, but rather a personal problem that's reflecting in your business. So the first thing you need to do to get out of this rut is to look after yourself. Don't try to focus on the business problem before fixing the personal problem in the first place. Look after yourself. Go to the gym consistently, especially when you don't feel like doing so. Stick to a healthy sleep schedule. Cut out all of the junk and unhealthy food and get back to a clean diet. If needed, go on a monk mode protocol. Follow all of the advice I give you throughout this phase 2 of Agency Accelerator. 90% of the time when you get your personal life in place, your business problems all of a sudden just fix themselves and you will start attracting success. Small win after small win. And if you are experiencing a similar situation to what I've described in this class or any of its symptoms, just remember to acknowledge the fact that you are currently going through the valley of despair, which, remember, as I said, is a necessary step to get to success. And acknowledging that is the first step to get out of it as quickly as possible. You do not need to be stuck here for months. Now, the fourth mindset is seek solitude and connect with like-minded people. Now, although these two might sound like opposites to each other, they're actually not, and let me explain what I mean here. Seeking solitude does not mean locking yourself in your room and not talking to anyone. It means that as you are going through a transition period, through that character shift of letting go of your past self and embracing and becoming your new successful self, there is going to be a lot of people who do not understand or support this transition that you are going through. They don't see what you're doing as being something productive, or they simply do not understand this process of improvement. And from those people, you have to seek solitude. On the other hand, you want to surround yourself with other people who are going through the same journey as you, because they are on the same wavelengths as you, and you will be able to lift each other up. And that is why the student community aspect of Agency Accelerator is so important and plays such a huge role in your success with your business. Now, the fifth mindset is just because you are working on something, it does not entitle you to success. I know this is harsh to hear, but in this life, we are not entitled to anything. A lot of students, when they first start their agencies and start going through the process of outreach, very quickly, they start to question, where are my clients? Why am I not making money yet? It's almost as if they think they're entitled to it just because they started to put in a little bit of work. But the reality is the length of time that it takes for someone to go through that cycle is very variable. Each person is different. The amount of time and work they put in is also different. And I've told you this before, there's also an element of timing and luck. So it's not going to be the same for everyone. But a few questions that you can ask yourself here is this: do I rely on others to succeed? Am I maximizing my personal capacity? And by the way, this is one of the most powerful questions, because for 99% of people, if you are truly being honest with yourself, your answer is going to be no. Meaning, there's always more that you could do, and the majority of the time, you know you should be doing more, but you're not. And there's always more left in your tank that you're not putting into this venture. So make sure you are finding out where you're leaving effort on the table and start putting in that effort now. Now, the sixth mindset is to adopt the scientist's mindset. I want you to always approach problems with a scientific mindset. And what I mean by that is a mentality of always trying new and different things. Majority of the times, the students try to follow to a T the examples that I give throughout the course and start doing the exact same thing that everyone else is doing, always thinking inside of this box. And that's why I tend to stray away from giving specific examples throughout the program, because if I were to use solar as my example niche during the niche module, guess what happens? Well, in that case, 80% of students choose solar as their niche. And then everyone is doing the exact same thing and no one is succeeding. So I want you to stray away from boxing yourself in and trying to do the same thing over and over, and instead adopt the scientific mentality and test different things that you haven't tested yet. Always be testing new things, new approaches, new outreach messages, new structures. Now, obviously, when scientists test things, they don't just simply test things in any way and call it a test. They test things in a very specific way. They follow the scientific method. And this ensures that the results they get are trustworthy and can be compared to the other tests they ran, because they were all ran under the same conditions and with the same variables, meaning they are controlled tests. So when you're taking on this scientific mindset, you should do the same. Now, a lot of students try to test things without following a method. Then they don't get the desired results and just assume that the thing they tested doesn't work, when in fact what doesn't work is their testing methodology. For example, let's say you decide to test a different medium for outreach. You usually do email, and now you want to test Instagram cold outreach. You cannot simply test that for 2 days, send a random number of messages, and try to compare the results you've gotten from email. Whenever you are testing something, you need to commit to testing it for a long enough period of time with defined variables on how you are going to do it. So let's say, for example, you are testing a different medium for your outreach, but then you're using a different message for each medium, sending that message to a different list of contacts, and then doing so for 30 days with one outreach method and 2 days with the other. There's quite literally nothing scientific about this test, and your results are going to be inconclusive. Now, we're going to go more in depth on this and other testing concepts during our outreach phase here inside of Agency Accelerator, but I just wanted you to keep this in mind. The point here is, if things are not working as expected, and if you're frustrated with your results, remember to adopt the scientist's mindset, and that will help you out tremendously. Now, if you want to get a different result, you have to test different things. You can't just expect to do the same thing over and over and get different results, because by doing this, you acknowledge the fact that you won't get the perfect solution and the right answers from the get-go, but you rather have to build yourself the perfect solution and find the right answers. And that is how you can grow both in business and in life. Now, the seventh mindset is having the realization that no one is coming to help you. If you want to see the results, you have to understand that no one is coming to help you. Business is all about input, and your output is always only going to be as good as your input. So low and mediocre input means low and mediocre output, just like with the gym, where you're not going to simply wake up one day and be fit. The same is true with business. You're not going to wake up one day and just be at $10,000 a month without putting the work in. You will not get a client and start making money if you do not put in the reps consistently. You have to do the work that no one else can do for you. Now, the eighth mindset is approach the valley of despair as a rite of passage, something that everyone has to go through. When you reach the valley of despair, I want you to be proud. I want it to be something that you're looking forward to. A rite of passage is a ritual that all different types of tribes have gone through for thousands of years around the world. And it's such an amazing thing because they basically represent the moment you grow into the ultimate, most capable version of yourself. It's usually the ritual that boys go through to complete their transition into a man and adulthood. And the thing is, these rituals, pretty much all of the time, they're not easy. They're painful. You have to suffer, because that is the only way that you're going to create the thick skin and the stress tolerance needed to be your most successful self. The Valley of Despair is a rite of passage in a sense, because you have to go through it in order to build the characteristics you need to get success. You have to do 1,000, 2,000 outreaches before you can expect to deserve something out of it. You simply won't go from $0 to $10,000 a month without going through this rite of passage. You have to go through the stages and endure the pain needed to get there. Now, the ninth mindset is that this experience is cyclical. So finally, you have to understand that you won't simply go through this experience once. You will always be going through these 5-stage cycles for any new venture you try. And even inside the same thing you're already doing, let's say you're testing a new niche or a new outreach method. Even though you've been successful in the past with another niche or another outreach method, you're still gonna have to go through this same process again. Just remember, there's no way to skip steps here. Now, the thing is, once you're more experienced, you learn how to navigate the valley of despair and the entire 5 stages overall. So something that would have taken you months to get through, you'll then be capable to power through it in weeks or even days. And most importantly, you have to understand that most people will never go through this entire cycle because, quite frankly, they'll quit halfway through, but you are not most people. So just by being here inside of Agency Accelerator, you are already part of the 1% that committed to taking action and working towards their success. So the way you react to things and approach hardship in your life is different than the way that the average person does. And you have to remember that you're going through that stage. But once you get to stage 5, you become an unstoppable force. You unlock ultimate resilience. And with that, there is nothing that can stop you. So your ultimate objective should always be getting to that 5th stage. To embrace the journey and be happy about the fact that you are going through hardship, because those are the required steps to build up to your ultimate successful version. And that successful version of yourself will reflect into your business, and you will create this virtuous cycle of success in all areas of your life. Remember, you gotta almost embody what someone making $10,000 a month is like in terms of their actions and their mindsets before you ever get there. So once you become the person that acts and thinks like someone that makes $10,000 a month, that is when you'll be able to attract that reality to you, not the other way around. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited for you to at least be aware of these things, be cognizant of it, because these things are only scary if you don't have the expectations that it's something that's gonna be coming. If these feelings and these emotions arise out of nowhere, then yeah, I can understand why it could be overwhelming or something that would make you wanna quit. But when you know that this is coming, when you know this is something that you are going to experience, you've already embraced it, and you know that you're going to be so much stronger on the other side of it. So on that note, I hope you have enjoyed this phase, and I will see you in the next phase. So today was a very mindset-heavy module, but a very necessary one, because if you don't understand the emotional cycle of success, you are going to be indefinitely stuck in what I've presented to you here as a failure cycle. So now is the moment where you have a decision to make, because you're now probably at the top of the uninformed optimism stage when it comes to starting an agency business. So you have to decide if this is just going to be another one of those failed attempts where you go from uninformed optimism to uninformed pessimism to then quitting in the valley of despair and going right back to the beginning of the failure cycle with whatever is the next shiny business that you come across. Or if this is going to be the one that you stick to even through the hardship, so that way you can make it through the valley of despair and break free from the failure cycle. So that way you can finally achieve success. I've already shown that it's possible, and that thousands of people have done it as well. So now it's your choice to make. If you choose to keep walking in circles and getting frustrated with failure after failure, that's on you. Now, if you choose to stick through this and make this attempt your successful attempt, then I have a very, very special class for you inside of episode 3, where I'm gonna give you the full roadmap to get to $10,000 a month with your agency. So if you have chosen the latter, well then I will see you on Friday at 12 p.m. EST on our live premiere for episode 3.